and the big declines are in energy, diesel and petrol cars, things that are under the government's control in some respects, but are being ignored. So, come on, James, explain to me which of the sectors.
Very happy to do so.
Okay, let James come back.
I mean, firstly, every time we have this discussion, the list of things that Bernard can blame the EU for is absolutely staggering. In fact, I'm slightly surprised hasn't blamed them for locking him out of his house. But there are lots of areas that we could point to. I mean, there have been multiple surveys that show that businesses themselves have said that they've lost export opportunities. I mean, there was an LSE study, for instance, in 2022 that said the Brexit deal reduced goods export by £27 billion, which is 6.4%.
Didn't happen.
Well, I mean, the problem is, Bernard, you're saying it. I'm giving you an LSE study. So, I mean, people out there can decide which one they think is more authoritative. But, you know, a 2024 study shows 74%, or 75% actually, of businesses said their sales have been made more difficult thanks to bureaucratic costs. And indeed, you know, Make UK and other major organisations that represent manufacturing in this country have said very clearly that it's impacted their ability to export.
We all this debate during the Brexit referendum.
No, these are since Brexit, but this is
won the argument.
debate.
We won the arguments with the British public.
You did win the argument, Bernard, but you don't see it gone over.
And I think that I just say this to Richard. You know, this is not the Conservatives trying to turn the clock back.
Just
this is the
because
Labour government trying to
just
turn the clock
because
back.
you
We
won the
left the
argument
EU.
doesn't mean it
We
was
should be looking to a global
a good
future. It's
decision.
the
It was
Labour
a wrong
Party
decision, and people
that are
think
harking back to our membership of the EU and trying to reverse it. We want to look forward and take opportunities in the world where trade is growing. The EU is the slow growth, highly regulated, highly
But
taxed.
it is
Where there
also
is less future in the
okay.
UK.
Right. Let's move this on because I want to bring Kitty in to talk about the politics of this, and it's interesting, Kitty, because the previous panel I had was very kind of calm, saying, "Oh no, it's going to be fine. Everyone's going to be very happy to move forward with this," and it is useful having Sir Bernard Jenkin on. I know that, a lot of people disagreeing with him, but there will be people who do agree with him. Kitty, do you think that this is just going to be plain sailing for Keir Starmer, or do you think people will feel that this is an undoing of Brexit and that there will be a political row over this, which could really benefit Nigel Farage?
I don't think it will be as straightforward as perhaps the Labour Party would hope, but I don't think people really talk about it in terms of Brexit anymore. If you look at the polling, I think 57% of people, have been several polls around that mark, think that people think that we should rejoin the European Union. But actually, I think this season's Brexit is the European Court of Justice. I think that's where we'll see the argument filter to, and that seems to be where Nigel Farage has set his political course. Because when we look at the details tomorrow, we're going to see three different baskets. One is on defence. That's probably nailed on, we're not quite sure yet. The second one, which I think is going to be the most controversial, will be an agreement on interest on boundaries, which is an area where some of the full negotiations are continuing this evening.
mpaka watu kwa wanapata marefugee kwenye kamp zao wakiwapiga wakivunja.
The issue of dynamic alignment, which you talked about, where the stance and the role for the European Court of Justice kicks in, and I think that's exactly where the issue will come. I mean, there is also going to be a statement of European solidarity, which might upset some Brexiters, but I doubt it. I mean, in the face of the threat from the Kremlin, I don't think we'll see any issue there.
And do you think that, Kitty, because of the very difficult defence situation that Europe now finds itself, particularly with what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, do you think that has taken some of the edge off the politics of this? I mean, I know some people, and I know Sir Bernard's not happy about this, but do you think that has kind of changed people's view on Europe and has made people more open to the fact that we should have a closer relationship with Europe because of the security challenges?
Oh yes, absolutely, and hastened by Donald Trump, of course, coming into the White House and saying, I'm not going to pay for European security anymore. But sort of more than that, I think gosh, listen to these arguments, it's sort of triggering my Brexit PTSD from back at the time. Everyone sort of moved on, I think, and no one really talks about it anymore. I think I think getting closer slowly.
Ama alikuchokesha.
Nataka kupigwa. You're stalking me. You're stalking me.
Despite people jumping down and some of the politicians today, I don't think that's very publicist.
Jirani yangu unayotaka na mnike kwa dirisha namuona. Amegeuka so. Are you stalking me?
Which revealed that just over half of Brits believe that Brexit was the decision. And someone's just messaged in to me saying, look, Anthony said, hi Aisha, well I voted Remain and I was at the second referendum events in the evening at Parliament Square which you hosted. Those days have gone and few of us realistically believe we're on a path to rejoin. So these people Bernard saying, no, we understand, leave men, leave, we're not rejoining. But what's the problem with removing certain frictions around the edges to give businesses and the economy a mini boost while making life easier for business and leisure travel? What's so bad? I mean, nobody's saying rejoin. I mean, the Liberal Democrats used to say that, but Labour's not saying rejoin. They're not saying freedom of movement. They're not saying a customs union. As my listeners just saying, what's so bad about just trying to make life easier for British businesses?
Nothing. But it depends what would be required to give up in return. For example,
and they will be penalized for what they did, you know.
And a line
They're being penalized every day.
Walilipa.
Agricultural
I don't know kama walilipa lakini walisign up bad Brexit.
I mean, people say
The first thing is walisign bad Brexit deal. Hawa marefugees wenye wanafanya kwenye boti wakija huku. Wao ndio walisign hiyo deal. Wao ndio walisign hiyo deal ya kwamba France haitawafanya chochote. France itawawacha wao watadili nao. Wao wenyewe ndio walisign hiyo deal. Alafu sasa wanalalamika France haifanyi chochote. Wao ndio walisign hiyo deal.
Na mwenye kusaini kwa John nini?
Boris Johnson najui chochote.
Tom Bradshaw, the president, actually warned the government this week, last week, about the risk of accepting EU regulation, which would absolutely stop all this product development because the EU is against it. Now, what are you going to? A lot of this is going to be in the detail, and will only become available when we see the fine print and the new regulations are being applied in the EU after this agreement has been made. I think a lot of people in the government and around the government and the pro-Remain lobbies are exploiting the defence issue to try and get not just a fair hearing but a fudged hearing on these other matters. We don't need to do all this in order to prosper. This is about an agenda, as you heard from some of your listeners, about developing an agenda to rejoin the EU at some stage in the future.
But to be fair, none of my listeners, Bernard, have said that's not accurate. None of my listeners have messaged in saying we should rejoin. All they have said is that shouldn't we, if the public is moving in that direction, shouldn't we make things a bit easier for us as a country?
I'm going into the referendum.
Nobody has said on the show that we should be
Going into the
rejoining.
referendum, miles behind the Remain vote in the polls, and as we fleshed out the arguments, people became more familiar with the issues of sovereignty and control and democracy and our laws and the opportunities for the UK outside the EU. We swung the vote in our direction. I don't want to have to go through all that again, but it's the government that
Who's
was
asking
taking us
you to
back
go
into
through
this.
it again? You won't be here anyway.
Well, it looks like we are having those arguments again. Is everyone having pleasant deja vu? Has everyone like remembering that one?
We wouldn't be having this argument if the government wasn't trying to do this kind of...
But Bernard, you can't just not move forward, right? To be fair to the government is having to strike deals with lots of places outside the EU, including America and India, and they've got lots of kind of deals. We have to evolve our relationship with the EU. We have to evolve our relationship with our big partners. We're having to evolve things because of the defence situation, because of Donald Trump, and that doesn't
Just come back on the defence.
that does not mean that the government is seeking to rejoin. In fact, the government
No,
sometimes gets
Bernard,
criticism for it, but it's
well,
not
wale
accurate to
mabig
say that
campaigners
the
for
government is
Brexit.
trying to rejoin. You
Yeye
have
ndio
to
big
evolve
campaigner for
your
Brexit.
relationship with your
Sasa
big partners. That's what you have to do when you're in government.
Well, I'm
na
very
watu
happy to have
wameamua
this debate.
we would rather go
But
back
let's
to
just talk
EU
about the
than
defence question. It would be very
not be in
unwise
EU.
for the
Lakini sasa
government
because we had the
to
referendum,
make some kind of
the
defence
country
pact
was
with the
told
EU
if you choose to leave you have to leave. Hamwezi
states
kurudi.
when
Na
they
EU
say
pia
at the same
walisema
time
mkitoka mmetoka
that
mtaenda.
NATO is the cornerstone of our defence.
Sasa
and they
wamesema
want the
okay,
Americans
tumetoka
to remain
lakini
involved in NATO.
yafaa tuangalie
If
away
you want to
yenye
send
tunaweza
a
kufanya
wrong
business
signal to
kuna
Donald
safari.
Trump,
Because
then
business
do a
is
deal in Europe that exclusive
Sisi
United
tuliposaidia
States.
dini
That
yetu ya
would send a
Brexit
signal to
tulisani ya
President
kwamba
Trump and his
kuna a
supporters.
lot
Oh,
of
the Europeans
layers.
don't need, even the
Ni
Brits
kama
say
vile
they
kuna
don't need
makaratasi
us.
mingi ya
That's
kujaza.
very
Sasa
dangerous.
hii imesema ni sawa, sisi
I'm very
tutatoa haya
concerned that
makaratasi
defence has
msijaze
been used as a
makaratasi.
cloak
Hayo
for all
makaratasi
these other
kujejeza ni
policies,
pesa.
which could end up sending the
Not
wrong
only
signal
ni
to
pesa,
President Trump.
but
I mean,
yanachukua kama hivi
to be
wiki
fair,
tatu.
we've been sending very
Ndio
positive
yaangaliwe ndio
signals
upate
to Donald Trump. But
majibu.
Jake, do you want to
Before,
pick up on that? Do you want to pick up on that
ilikuwa
very
kuna
quickly?
barabara tu,
Just
unapita tu naingia ndani ya feri na haulizi chochote.
Bernard criticised Labour government
Haulizi
for
chochote.
not being global
Sasa
ready
ilikuwa
when
tukienda
negotiations
France,
still
hata
remain deal
ukitaka
American last
kujaza gari
8
lako
weeks
na wine,
announcing the EU on
unajaza
defence.
ulizi
President Trump has
chochote.
made very
Sasa hii
clear he
hauruhusiwi
wants
kutoka with more than
Europe
2 bottles.
to stand on its own 2 feet as much as
Hauruhusiwi kutoka
possible,
France with more than
and we
2
need to do
bottles.
that. Everyone in
Sasa is a
Europe
lot of things.
accepts
Watu
we need to
wanaenda
do that.
France na
This is
manini
just
kama
part
hizi.
of that
Kwanza kama
journey.
watu
We're
wako na
committed to
harusi ya
spending more on
mapacha.
defence as
Wanaenda
other
na truck
European
kama hizo
countries,
wanajaza.
and this resets another
It was so
opportunity to see how we can
cheap.
be better together. I think
Champagne
Bernard
yenye
Jenkins'
hapa,
political career, I mean,
ukienda
it's
supermarket
completely-
unanunua like
it's
56
completely,
pounds. France utaipata for
focused on
16.
an anti-EU
Oh my God.
perspective, and that blinds
Sasa watu
pretty
kama
much
wako na
everything else.
harusi hawa wenye
Well,
wako
we'll
na
have to
mahoteli
make
wenye
it
walikuwa wanaenda tu
We're having
France,
a very
wanaeka
enjoy your
club,
discussion
wanaleta
there.
pombe zao.
Plenty more to come for our panel. I do keep your comments
Wow.
coming in. I will try and
And
get
did
through
they know
as
that
many of
after
them
this,
as
the
I
business
can.
will collapse, or they did not
Enjoying
know
this
what was
conversation
coming?
with strong views.
The government
Sides,
knew,
just gone
but
5:36.
walidanganya
Let's
watu.
with Mike Powell for the latest
Tukitoka
news.
tutasign deals na nchi zingine.
Across the
Only to
UK,
realize ya kwamba
on
hizo nchi zingine
online
ziko na deals
and
na
on your
EU.
smart speaker.
And they are not
Na
gonna-
wao ili
This
wasign
is
deal na
Times Radio.
manake walisign deal na EU.
The Sunday Times has seen
Na wao
links
kusign deal na
planned
mtu
by
mwenye yuko
Israel
nchi ya
to
EU,
completely
lazima
take
EU
over
wawapatie
Gaza and
permission.
divided into zones, as is
Na
the
EU
case in
pia
the West
wakaeka ya
Bank.
kwamba
The
ukisign deal na
controversial
mtu mwenye yuko
proposals
EU,
come as Israel intensified its
hautakuwa
offensive
in their
against
bei yake
Gaza,
itakuwa kwa hivi.
including beginning a group
Yeah.
Bei yake
operation
itakuwa
in
kwa
the
juu.
north and south.
Sasa itabidi
Hospitals
huyo
and medics in the
mtu
region
alipe hizo
say
pesa
more
ili
than
wewe
100
ulipe
people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes overnight.
Sasa waona watu wengi sasa
However,
wamesema
Israel and
wamekuwa
Hamas
stuck.
Wamekuwa
have
stuck.
resumed peace negotiations in
Sasa
Kila
Qatar.
mtu amewatoroka.
The
Amatoroka
Pope has
sasa
met
wameingia
with
kusaidini
Ukraine's
na watu kama
president
kina
after
India.
Leo XIV
India wanawaambia sisi tutawapatia trade
to mark the official
lakini
start of his
in
papacy.
return sisi tutaka visa
First
free
North
entry
American
Haya.
pontiff also offered
kwa
the
wanafunzi wote. Mtu yoyote mwenye anataka kustadi
between
UK
Ukraine and Russia.
aingie UK
US
bila
President
visa.
Trump will speak to
Sasa
both
hapo
the
ndio mahali
Russian
penye
and
wanabaki.
Ukrainian presidents
Sasa kwa sababu
separately
hawana
tomorrow
nini,
in a
hawana
bid to resolve
trade,
the ongoing
inabidi wanachukua watu kama
bloodshed
kina
between the
India.
two countries.
Well,
European leaders gather at Lancaster House in
Haya.
London tomorrow for the first UK
Hilo
EU
ndilo wameenda
summit since
wamesign na
Brexit,
America, si ndio?
with Keir Starmer hoping to finalise
America
Westminster's
waliimpose deal kwa
proposed
EU
reset
yenye ni
of
25%
relations with
of
Brussels.
everything.
Catherine
EU pia
Barnard is
wakaimpose deals
Professor of
zingine kwa
EU
America
Law and
wakasema okay
Employment Law
25%.
at Trinity
Nyinyi pia
College,
mkileta
Cambridge,
trade kuuza
and
kwetu
also
itakuwa
a senior
25%.
fellow at UK in a
Lakini
changing
sasa
Europe.
UK sisi
She
tuko
told
peke yetu.
Aisha on Times Radio
Oh my
what a
God.
defence pact
na sasa
might be
EU
for
is
the
bigger
UK.
than UK, right?
EU is the biggest trading bloc. EU is the biggest market for us.
There will be a security defence pact signed tomorrow.
Na
and
there's
this
so many
will
country
be the
there, isn't
gateway
it? Kuna
into
country nyingi na
UK having
ni
access to the
geographically
so-called
ni
SAFE
ni kubwa
program,
pia
the
kushinda
150
Yeah,
billion
EU is
United
a much,
Kingdom.
much bigger market
aimed at
than
helping
America.
defence procurement.
EU iko
And the
kubwa.
fight is going to be just
Wow.
how much of that 150 billion the UK will be able to get access to, whether it will be capped at 15% or whether it will go higher.
The finest writers from the Times preview and review the week's football on the Game podcast.
They've just messed up and they
This
don't want to
is
admit it.
Times
Mimi
Radio.
wanakuambia kila siku. Watu wasahawili mambo eti serikali inafaa kuangalia. They don't look at
Your
me.
year of adventure in Fred Olsen Cruise Line summer sale. On now at Hayes Travel. You'll raise a glass to a free drinks package on selected sailings. Plus there are
Sipendi kuwa
special
karibu na hizi
savings
vitu
for
kwa sababu
summer guests
hazikuonyeshi
too. Sail away
hizi
with
signboard
great
vizuri.
savings in Fred Olsen Cruise Line summer sale. Book by the 25th of June in your local Hayes Travel branch. Conditions apply.
Fancy a fever tree? And vodka? Yes, vodka, not gin. Because this is Fever Tree Mexican lime soda. Yes, soda, not tonic. With Mexican lime and Japanese yuzu for a zesty, refreshing lime soda that's just sweet enough. Delicious with vodka or on its own. Fever Tree Mexican lime soda. Mixed with the best. Now that hits the
Hizi
spot.
mini exit
Wake
ya-
up
Yeah,
to
yeah.
a brighter breakfast. Times Radio
Ndio maana
Breakfast.
nakwambia pita.
7 days a week from 6 a.m. Aisha Hazarika on Times Radio with Oceana Cruises. Experience the Oceana Cruises difference with the finest cuisine at sea. Find out more at oceanacruises.com.
Welcome back to our Sunday political panel, and just a reminder, best videos from Times Radio. Do subscribe to our social media channels. We've got almost 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube, and you can get lots of in-depth political analysis and interviews. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. You just search for Times Radio and click subscribe or follow to get the latest videos as soon as they're published. We've got a brilliant political panel for you today. We've got Jake Richards from the Labour Party, Sir Bernard Jenkins from the Conservatives, James McCleary from the Liberal Democrats and Kitty Donaldson from the iPaper. And of course you at home, loads of messages coming in. Alf from Halifax. Alf says Aisha, Brexit was the right decision. Individual sovereignty is always right. People talk about the economy making the rich richer. I am more for the individual and their right to control their government. That's Alf in Halifax. Someone's messaging saying nobody said they want to export out of all Europe. This is the thing I remember from debates.
Wafaransa wanapendana na Wajerumani, Wataliano wanapendana na Waspanish. Wao ndio wamechukiwa, maanake roho zao ni chafu, wanajiona wao wako special. Na kwanza wao wanajifanya wako special na wakienda mahali hawataki kuna wazungu.
Bernard Jenkins missed the fact that his party was in power from 2016 to 2024. Why didn't they give us the utopian Brexit that he now wanted? Oh yes, it's political gravity. The reality of Brexit took over. Even Kenny may not realise that getting rid of the EU would be a huge issue. Michael messages in to say on a possible EU-UK defence pact, unless you can read Donald Trump's mind, and then this is just good politics. Nobody can rely on the US with that president. Well, look, I'm keen to just move away from the EU-UK summit. We'll get more of those details for the next few days. Times Radio will bring you all of that. But I just want to get my panellists' thoughts on another big theme from this week, which was immigration. Keir Starmer making quite a controversial speech on at the beginning of the week, and of course he's hoping to announce this youth mobility scheme. So kind of started the week with some quite tough language on immigration. This line about Britain being an island of strangers upset quite a few people. But now talking about a youth mobility scheme. So just keen to get my panelists' views on where we are on the immigration debate. Jake, I'll come to you first. Your dad last night was quite scathing about Keir Starmer's speech. Was not happy about the language. What did you think about the Keir Starmer speech?
Yeah, I don't think I'm the first person to disagree with their dad about something. No, look, I think that the Labour government were elected on a manifesto committed to bringing down levels of immigration. The white paper on Monday was published, which set out very careful, quite technical measures that will begin to do that. I think that the Prime Minister as whole, and even the paragraph with that one phrase that's kind of hit the headlines, but even that paragraph was measured and balanced to people in the country. If they heard the speech.